This man would go on a 2-day-long nationwide spree that left 4 without their lives. Hello there, stranger. This is part 48 of the England's Whole Lifers series, so viewer discretion is advised. So today I'm going to be telling you about Daniel Julian Gonzalez, who was born on the 21st of June 1980 to an English mother and a Spanish father. Daniel was a bright pupil at a private school where he was also a chess champion, but he had a troubled nature from very early on. He was expelled from school for placing drawing pins on chairs, amongst other things, and his parents had him assessed by mental health professionals many times from a very young age. As he got older, his issues only worsened, compounded by his addictive nature and his tendency towards drink and substances. And he would take them all the ones you can think of, and then that other one as well. He committed minor crimes like shoplifting. He could not maintain a job and eventually stopped trying. He didn't have any friends or romantic relationships and spent the majority of his time at home playing video games and watching horror movies. In fact, he developed a deep fascination for horror movies, idolizing characters like Freddy Krueger and Jason. He had a calm period around 1998 when he was admitted to a psychiatric unit for 6 months, where he was diagnosed with and treated for paranoid schizophrenia. After 6 months, he was discharged and unfortunately stopped taking his meds and soon reverted back to his troubled ways. As this behaviour followed her son well into his 20s, his more than concerned mother, Leslie Savage, asked for help repeatedly from anyone she could and with increased desperation. The behaviours worsened. Now Daniel had damaged property, committed assaults and served some time in jail. In a letter dated the 22nd of June 1998, Leslie wrote to the Director of Social Services, quote, "Does my son have to take a life or have his own taken before he gets the treatment he so badly needs?" She tried and tried for him, and I've got to say I really admire her for that, but at the same time I'm so sad for her. This was a mother that knew something wasn't right, and instead of just hoping the issue would go away, she actively tried to solve it. She tried to help her son, and when she realised that she couldn't, she tried to get him the help that he needed from any other avenue. She was repeatedly ignored. Daniel himself reached out to different services for help, writing to his GP a letter, quote, please help me, this is very urgent, unquote. From that letter, he was referred to a hospital but did not receive any treatment. And so, unfortunately, the situation just continued as it was. No matter what she said or who she said it to, what she was saying just did not seem to resonate. Leslie Savage worked for Surrey County Council and Daniel lived with her still. They lived in Woking in Surrey. And then just a few days before the events in question, Daniel was seen running through the streets of their estate in his birthday suit. Leslie came home to find knives all over her kitchen, and she actually thought, this is it, this is the crisis that we needed in order to get him help. It seems to me as if she was quite relieved, and that tells me exactly where this family were at. The fact that this lady has come home from work with her 20-something-year-old son running around the estate with no clothes on and sharps all over the kitchen, and the first thing she thought was, finally, now they might help him. And so she calls the community mental health team, and on the third attempt she gets through to them, and they tell her to assess her son and call the local psych hospital if she feels threatened by him. And so again, Leslie was left to deal with something that she didn't understand and definitely could not treat. And then Daniel snapped. On the 15th of September 2004, Daniel took a train from Woking to Portsmouth, a coastal city in Hampshire. He alighted the train at Hilsey when he noticed that it was a very quiet area. He saw a man, Peter King, walking his dog with his wife, and he would attack Peter, impaling him in the arm and in the chest, but Peter would fight him off, and then Daniel would run away after saying to Peter, "I'm sorry, I'm a schizophrenic, I can't help it." He then got on a train from Portsmouth to Hove. This time he had a white hockey mask, just like the Jason character. He went into Hove. He found a quiet area and waited in some shrubbery down a footpath. He was wearing the hockey mask. Marie Harding was 73 years old and worked at the ticket office for the Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club. She was walking down that footpath that day when she was attacked by Daniel. He attacked Marie from behind using a sharp implement on her neck and then took £20 from her bag before leaving her there on the footpath. He would then get a train home. He would chronicle the day's events in a diary on that train ride home. On the 17th of September, he went up to London by train, where he spent the day drinking in the West End before heading to Tottenham in the early hours. At around 5:30 a.m, he attacked 46-year-old Kevin Malloy. Kevin was a former pub landlord, an Irishman who planned to return home to Ireland to live with his mother. Daniel took Kevin's life by impaling him repeatedly in the face, neck and torso. At around 7 o'clock in the morning, he got into the house of Kumis Constantino and attacked him, but he was fought off again, but not before impaling Mr. Constantino in his arm. He then travelled to Highgate, another area in North London, where he would try to enter into random houses. He would eventually knock on the door of Derek and Jean Robinson. Derek and Jean were a married couple. He, a retired paediatrician, she, a former employee of Christian Aid. He attacked them in the hallway of their own home, impaling them repeatedly until they passed away. He actually said that when he got in there, he, quote, stopped for a breather, then ready, steady, go. He'd stripped down and was about to enter the couple's shower when he was interrupted by a decorator at their door. He said, "Sorry about this, mate," before jumping out a window and running off down the street again in his birthday suit. That decorator called authorities and Daniel was later arrested at Tottenham Hale Tube Station. Prosecutors accused Daniel of faking mental illness, as his defence was, of course, one of diminished responsibility. Let me tell you, stranger, I am so sick of seeing this defence used and abused. But in this case, it really didn't take much more than the research I did for this video to convince me that in a rare instance, Daniel Gonzalez really was poorly in his mind and probably actually did have diminished responsibility. Of course, I know nothing, and that is just my opinion. The jury rejected his defence either way, and he was found guilty of 4 counts of M and 2 of attempted M. He was sentenced to 6 life sentences, with the judge recommending that he should never be released. If he had been found to have diminished responsibility by reason of insanity, it would have been manslaughter. Daniel made multiple attempts on his own life, in one instance trying to chew his own arm off. He tried to bite through the artery in his own arm. The force of that bite surprised everybody, including his doctor. He was so violent that it took 5 policemen in riot gear to escort this man to the bathroom. Daniel was sent to Broadmoor. Once there, he received medical treatment for his mental health disorders, although I am unaware of the diagnoses. His mother said he slowly became more lucid and would apologise to her for what he had done. On the 9th of August 2007, Daniel took the broken edges of a CD case and used them to cut into himself. He passed away from exsanguination. Rest in peace to the victims of this case, Marie Harding, Kevin Malloy and Derek and Jean Robinson. And that is the awful case of Daniel Julian Gonzalez. I'm really not sure how I feel about this one, strangers. I have trust in our justice system, but we are human, and the jury, I don't feel like can get it right 100% of the time. I feel like this is one of those cases. Daniel did what he did. He was responsible for those actions. I feel like if he'd have had the help that he was so desperately crying out for, maybe the circumstances could have been different. Of course, I don't know that, and that doesn't change anything for those who lost their lives. I'm not trying to take away from that. I just feel a bit unsettled at the end of this one. Please, as always, let me know what you think in the comments. And as ever, if you've stayed with me up until now, then thank you for watching, and I will see you for the next one.